trillion debt is funded by this system that the Medici invented in Florence in the 1420s. But the Medici weren't done. The third innovation was the one that gave them ultimate power, becoming the central bank for all of Europe. By 1450, the Medici Bank wasn't just the Pope's bank, it was the King of France's bank, the Duke of Milan's bank, the King of England's bank. Every major ruler in Europe banked with the Medici. And this gave them something unprecedented, the ability to control the money supply for entire nations. Here's how it worked. The King of France wants to fund a war against England. He needs 500,000 gold EQs immediately, but tax revenue won't come in for months. He goes to the Medici Bank in Lyon and asks for a loan. The Medici agree, but with conditions. The interest rate is 12%. The loan must be repaid within 2 years. And as collateral, the king pledges the tax revenue from 3 provinces. If he defaults, the Medici get to collect those taxes directly. The king agrees because he has no choice. He needs the money now. The Medici create the loan not by handing over 500,000 gold EQs, but by issuing a letter of credit. This is a document saying the king can draw 500,000 EQs from any Medici branch in Europe. The king uses these credits to pay soldiers, buy weapons, and fund the war. The recipients of these payments deposit them in Medici branches or use them to pay debts. The money circulates through the Medici network. And here's the key. The Medici never actually moved 500,000 gold EQs from Lyon to Paris to London. They just updated their ledgers. The Paris branch owes the Lyon branch 100,000 EQs. The London branch owes Paris 50,000 EQs. At the end of the month, they net everything out and move only the difference in actual gold. This is how central banks work. The Federal Reserve doesn't physically move trillions of dollars when it conducts monetary policy. It updates electronic ledgers. It creates money by changing numbers in computers. The Medici did the same thing 600 years ago using handwritten ledgers and letters of credit. And because they were the bankers for all the major powers, they could control who got credit and who didn't. If the King of France wanted a loan but the Medici didn't approve of his war, they simply refused. Without credit, the king couldn't fight. The Medici didn't need armies. They controlled European geopolitics through access to credit. Now let me show you how this system gave the Medici political control of Florence without ever holding official office. In 1434, Cosimo de' Medici returned to Florence after a brief exile. He had been accused of using the bank's wealth to corrupt the government, which was absolutely true. But Cosimo was too powerful to stay exiled. Within a year, he was back. And for the next 30 years, until his death in 1464, Cosimo ruled Florence as an unofficial dictator. He never held the title of duke or prince or king. Officially, Florence was a republic with elected councils and magistrates, but Cosimo controlled every election. How? Through debt and patronage. Here's the mechanism. Florence had approximately 5,000 wealthy citizens who were eligible to vote and hold office. Cosimo lent money to at least 3,000 of them. Some owed the Medici Bank money for business ventures. Others had borrowed to maintain their estates. Others had family members employed by the Medici network. When election time came, Cosimo would make it known whom he wanted elected. And the 3,000 men who owed him money voted accordingly. Because if you didn't vote the way Cosimo wanted, your loans might be called in early. Your line of credit might be reduced. Your son might lose his position at a Medici business. Cosimo never threatened anyone directly. He didn't need to. The threat was implicit in the debt relationship. If you owe someone money, you do what they want. This is power through financial leverage. And it was far more effective than ruling through force, because people who are controlled through debt think they're free. They elected their own leaders. They had a republic. They weren't subjects of a king, but every leader they elected was someone Cosimo approved. This is the same mechanism by which modern financial institutions control governments today. When a country owes the IMF or World Bank billions in debt, that country does what the IMF wants. Austerity measures, privatization, specific economic policies, not because the IMF has an army. Because the threat of cutting off credit is worse than any military threat. The Medici understood this in 1434, and the system hasn't changed. Let me show you the specific ways Medici innovations connect directly to modern financial mechanisms. Your mortgage is fractional reserve banking. When you borrow $300,000 to buy a house, the bank doesn't have $300,000 in a vault. They create that money by issuing you a loan. You sign a promissory note. They credit your account with $300,000. That money didn't exist before. The bank created it. And now you owe them $300,000 plus interest over 30 years. You'll pay roughly $500,000 total for a $300,000 loan. The bank made $200,000 on money they created from nothing. This is the Medici system. Your credit card is a letter of credit. In the